bien todo, ¿ah? Yo sabía que sí, la quería apagar. Yo le dije que estaba controlando esto.
Most importantly, we're going to have a Minha. I usually sit over here. Do you want to sit this way?
Just over here, it's fine.
You pick the spot and I'll sit next to you. So how's that? How's that?
Which one?
Corner,
The corner.
man. Corner.
Hi. Hello. Okay. Está bien todo.
Well, the real issue is, well, anyway.
Check 1, 2, check. ¿Me escuchas bien?
There will be 10?
Ok.
No, the question is,
Oh,
will there
that's
be
why
10?
I also came. So I volunteered. Yes, Rabbi Schatz and Shaver. Hi. Oh, yeah. When were we supposed to start today?
4.
3:04. Yeah, we're good.
It said 4 o'clock
4 o'clock.
in
Yeah.
the Minha.
Yeah, that's
But
what I thought.
it struck me
Yes.
earlier in
Earlier
December
right
we were
now.
starting 3:15,
I think-
3:55.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, this is like one of the shortest Shabbats, if
I
not
know,
the
and all of
next
a
to
sudden-
last shortest.
I
All of a
think it's
sudden
just
it
because
goes
we've
back
had
to
such
4.
trouble getting it
Maybe.
in. But that's one of the reasons I came and learned the laning was because I knew we might need an extra person. So we're already very close to a minion. Yeah.
All right.
I'm just upset
Sheva?
that I don't.
Sheva?
Yeah, I
Excuse me.
know.
Sheva, I want to say, I really enjoyed your drash last night. I zoomed in on it.
Thank you.
I zoomed in. I got, it was 4:30 and I was just out of it. And I realized, oh my God, I wanted to go. Said it's not going to happen to be there on time, so I'm just going to stay put and zoom in. I rarely do that, but it was very nice. And the notion of that the random encounter really occurs, whether it was by chance, by God, or anything else. But it's so true. There are so many times that you meet people in your life that change your life. Sometimes for good, sometimes for not so good. But there's always an encounter when it's for good. I assume this is your boyfriend who that you met who suggested going to be. No, it was somebody else.
A friend who was a colleague.
Oh.
No,
But where did you meet your boyfriend when he was there? Did you meet him in LA?
I met him in Jerusalem, but we weren't like we expected that to be an Israel only relationship from the beginning when we started.
How long is it for a year?
Yes. And so we started dating that fall, but we figured, okay, like this is a nice thing while we're here, we'll go our separate ways. And then it started getting more serious, and also like the LA faculty is just better suited for my interests, and I'm from the Bay Area. But my friend pointed all these other things out for me, and then we started to make it.
Okay, but was I don't know anything about your boyfriend. Was he always in LA?
Yes, he was always in LA.
But you went from the RCC. Was your year in Israel with the RCC or no, with the Reform Movement? Is that the first year that you were part of Israel to learn the Hebrew? Okay.
Oh, good.
So you went there. So you went there from here. You saw there. He went to LA. He continued. He was going to LA. You went to New York.
I didn't end up going to New York. Before the Israel year, you tell HUC what your campus preference is going to be. And then you have your year in Israel. And at the end of the Israel year, everyone goes to their respective campuses. So I entered the Israel year, signed up to go to New York. And then halfway through the year,
One less headache.
Yes. But not because of him, but because other friends were talking.
I really do want to see the World Cup tomorrow. It's 7 a.m.
Yeah.
But I'm not right necessarily.
Okay. So So halfway through your petition to go to LA, but that means at that point, you knew he was going to be there, you were going to be there.
I was happy about it. I won't say I wasn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
I'm the date. I like that.
Oh, that's perfect, you come and you get all the old Jewish journals, it's perfect.
I've missed a few. I've missed.
That's perfect, you get them all.
Oh my goodness.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We're darn
7 and a
close.
quarter. And we
Give it a
only
couple
have 2 more
minutes.
minutes.
That's
2 more
right.
minutes.
We're doing okay.
That's
Okay.
right. We're 70%. That's a C. We're getting there.
At the Major League Baseball club.
Well, that's Elliot Strosh. That's Elliot Stroshcott prayer. You know, even a good baseball player, when he plays,
I looked at it and I was
gets it
like,
right,
I
and
haven't
gets to hit 3
answered
times
yet.
out of 10, he's doing really well. When you pray, if you feel that it was either connected with positive 3 times out of 10, you're doing great. Isn't that a great way to look at it? I understood that analogy.
I like that.
I
I'll show you something I gave to my grandson, granddaughter, working with it for the ministry.
Oh, great.
I found this
Well,
book
I've been
for
studying
Torah,
biblical and
trope
modern
symbols,
Hebrew
which
at
is sort of, I never knew about this
ACU.
before,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Glad you found that. That's great.
one
Because
of the lovely
the
ladies in
normal
my
pattern
biblical
is
Hebrew class
Kad
was in
Mama
Spokane,
Pa
Washington. She sings it from
And how
Spokane.
often we heard it as Kashta,
Garments of mitzvah band. And we all
Ata,
zoomed in. We all zoomed in to the service in Spokane, Washington.
as part
It's such a lovely services. She did so well.
Oh, very
So, I
good.
don't know if you've seen that,
So
you know,
well
that.
about
Well,
Joseph.
it's not the way it's
I'll actually let you keep this here.
I have a copy of it already.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, this is a good teaching tool. I appreciate it.
What is the
I'm
way
so glad
it's
you got a
supposed to
chance to
be?
be with
I
her.
told her it was
Instead
the
of,
first one.
yes, instead of
Third,
Baruch.
that's right,
If
yeah.
you hear Baruch a lot and it's Baruch.
Then it goes down after Baruch. Because I've always said it, Baruch. That's not correct.
So maybe you're the one who should take this. I'll
I
tell you what
probably
tripped me up
should.
this morning, other than being nervous, which I really was, is that in the Reform movement, I didn't grow up with Rosh Hashanah or
Right.
some Chaynon and Elohim. We just don't have it. You know? So I had to practice. No, I'll be up in a minute. I had to practice those.
Well,
Anyway.
let me share with you a line that Michael Barabon gave me. I was Gabbai Misha. I called up the first Aliyah Rishonah. The second person I call up Aliyah Rishonah. And everyone says, no, Sheni. And some say it correctly, Shneiyah.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's right to Shion.
And then, but then, and the third time, I wound up saying the Aliyah Rishonah just came out. And Michael said,
Go all the way like
and
front of the
everyone,
stairs and
and
see.
before we say anything, Michael says, Alan, you think everybody is number one.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Sure.
That is good.
That was a very good line on the moment. It was perfect.
He was quoted well in the Jewish Journal article about Tom Turch's.
I could.
You noticed that.
I could, I haven't read davening in years.
I haven't read
I
this.
could.
Oh, it's really good.
I'll try it.
I mean, Michael is extraordinary. He is truly extraordinary.
Fair, Mom?
But it was death of the screenwriter for the LA Times, Tom Turch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you were doing something very appropriate, the comments about all he was getting for the Cantor's Assembly, all those things, then he wound up singing. He wound up, for whatever reason, this week was the,
I
Tata
gotcha.
Levana.
No, you're good. Bring it, because then this can be for people for Aliyot. We're good. Yeah.
It doesn't, but, I mean, just a comment, my experiences with Zoom, like during the pandemic, zooming into
We're still at
services
70%.
in Jamaica, you know, services,
Oh.
like today, services in Spokane, Washington. It's been incredible, you know.
It's a very special thing, yeah.
Because, the Jewish community in Spokane, Washington seems so close-knit, it seems just like such a lovely community, like going to Spokane, Washington.
Phil Lifgreek wasn't that, was from Washington, I don't think it was Spokane though, I think it was farther south.
Spokane is
Yeah.
a major southeastern Washington, whereas Seattle is the big one on the west
Yeah, it was by
coast.
the island, it was an island in the southern island.
Okay, they have the San Juan Islands, and they have all kinds of islands,
probably still be got used to 4 o'clock.
Yeah, but even if it's 4 o'clock, they could come
Yeah,
in at
so we're gonna-
4:15, 4:20, so you're gonna come
Come on time.
time. I'd like to say that to people in the evening meeting. Yeah, you can have like a 5 minute delay.
Well,
Maybe even 10
there's people I notice, I'm always sort of late, there's people who are always late, but I have a coworker, I realize that she's always late, so just schedule stuff a half hour earlier than you really need to, you should be okay.
Don't laugh. I know people who can't.
I'm gonna be one of them.
This is not a Katona passing,
Oh,
although it does have passing or stripes here, you know.
well, it could be a cut coat, a top coat. Maybe it's a top coat.
These very interesting looking latkes. They got these latkes with fried eggs on them. Take a look at these latkes. Fried eggs and latkes.
We're gonna try to spread tonight, my diet is gonna have a little trouble with lunches.
She's there.
Yes, let's start. We're on page 214,
You take a look.
and Ella Chorney will let us know when we get another two for Minha.
Okay. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yalu Chasela, Ashrei Am Shekachalo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Eloha, Tila LeDavid. Tilat Adonai Yadaber Pi, Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodshol Le'olam Va'ed, V'anachnu Nvarech Yah Me'atav Ad Olam, Hallelujah, Uval Etzion, Goel Shavei Pesha Yaakov, Ne'um Adonai. Be'ata Kadosh, Yoshev Tilot Yisrael, V'karazeh El Zeh V'yamar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech Haaretz Kevodo, Kavlin Dein Midein. V'tiso'eni ruach, v'eshmacharai kol ra'ash gadol, Baruch Kavod Adonai mimekomo. Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yivtechu v'cha yodei shemecha, ki lo azavta dorashecha Adonai, Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko, yagdil Torah v'yadir.
We're at 80%.
We're at 90%. Oh.
Ellen didn't count yet.
Not yet.
But we probably have just enough time to do one nigun to see if somebody comes. Just enough time. What do you say?
Absolutely.
So
I
let's
think
do
that's
a
wonderful
Psalm
idea.
23. So we've got it in the back here. Actually, we have it in two different places. So we'll do a Psalm 23 and then we'll see. We've got it on page, I think it's in like around the Pirkei Avot section. But we should tell the people on, yes, would you mind telling on 233, Marshall, would you mind telling the folks on Zoom that we're going to turn to page 233 to Psalm 23?
Okay, Psalm 23 on page 233. Mismor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, Bino deshe yarbitzeni, al me menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshaveh, nafshi yeshaveh, yancheni b'ma'aglei tzedek, leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salman ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha shivtecha umishantecha Hema yenachamuni Taroch lefanai shulchan Taroch lefanai shulchan Taroch lefanai shulchan Neged sararai Dishanta Vashem en Roshi Dishanta Vashem en Roshi Dishanta Vashem en Roshi Kosi Revaya October Chesed Year Defuni Kol Yamei Chayai Veshavti B'Beit Adonai B'Beit Adonai Le'orech Yamim Lai 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 Lai
All right, Marshall, I'm gonna take over for just a second here. So sometimes appearances are not quite what they seem, and so you know, we have a are we're fixing Zoom? So Zoom is on, but just not on here. Pero estamos desconectados. ¿O? Ah, ok, vas a conectar. Pero ellos sí pueden oír o no? Sí escuchan? Okay. So you guys can hear us, but you can't see us. That's fine. Okay. Great. So the appearances are not exactly what they seem, which is that sometimes you have a 7.5-year-old who's ready to read Torah, but she doesn't count. And sometimes it looks like you have, 10 Jewish adults in the room, but one might be a student who is preparing to convert to Judaism, but hasn't converted yet. And so we're not quite at a minyan, which means that we are not going to be able to take the Torah out of the ark, but we will still read from Parshat Miketz, which means that I need you. Yeah, because we're going to read from the book, not from the scroll. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to do, because well, okay, not absolutely, but I'm going to read from Parshat Miketz. So we can be seated for a minute, and Marshall, you can be seated as well. And we're going to read from the part of the story, the Joseph story, that picks up at this wonderful moment. It's actually one of my favorite moments. I don't think I'm stepping on any of Cheva's notes from what she's going to teach today, because I got a chance to peek at the source sheet. So you'll forgive me if I happen to step on your toes for what you're about to teach. But there's this wonderful moment where in verse 9 that we're about to read on page 251, there's this verse, Vaidaber Sar Hamashkim, the cupbearer says to Pharaoh, Et chata'ai ani maskir hayom. I just remembered the mistake that I made today. Just remembered it. What was the mistake that he made? He promised Joseph that he wouldn't forget about him. But then now he remembers him, and he remembers him at a really important moment, right? So he's just now remembering Joseph at a very important moment. And so now we're going to read from Parshat Miketz, which is the continuation of the Joseph story that we began this morning. And so we're going to read beginning on page 250 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, or if you're following along in any other Hebrew Bible, we are on in chapter 41, and we're on verse 1. And it goes like this. Oh, first, let me say a bracha to enter some study. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ha'olam asher kidshan mitzotav v'tzivanu la'asok v'divrei Torah. So I thank God for the opportunity to be in Torah study with you all. Even when we can't take aliyot to the Torah, it is a blessing to be in Torah study. Okay. Vayehi miketz shenatayim yamim ufaro choleim vehine omed al hayeor vehine min hayeor olot שבע פרות יפות מראה ובריאות בשר, ותראינה בכו. והנה שבע פרות אחרות עולות אחריהן מן היאור, רעות מראה ודקות בשר, ותעמודנה אצל הפרות על שפת היאור. ותאכלנה פרות רעות המראה ודקות הבשר את שבע פרות יפות המראה והבריאות ויקץ פרעה. Okay, that's dream number 1 from Pharaoh, the cows that ate the other cows. Next one, verse 5. וישן בחלום שנית, והנה שבע שיבולים עולות בקנה אחד בריאות וטובות, והנה שבע שיבולים דקות ושטופות קדים צומחות אחריהן, ותבלענה השיבולים הדקות את שבע השיבולים הבריאות והמלאות ויקץ פרעה והנה חלום. Dream number 2, right? All the ears of corn. All right, so now it's the morning time. Third Aliyah, we're in verse 8, page 251, chapter 41, verse 8. ויהי בבוקר, ותפעם רוחו וישלח, ויקרא את כל חרטומי מצרים, ואת כל חכמיך, ויספר פרעה להם את חלומו, ואת פוטר אותם לפרעה, וידבר שר המשקים את פרעה לאמור את חטאי אני מזכיר היום, פרעה קצף על עבדיו, ויתן אותי במשמר בית שר הטבחים אותי, ואת שר האופים בנחל חלום לילה אחד אני והוא איש כפתרון חלומו חלמנו, ושם איתנו נער עברי עבד לשר הטבחים, ונספר לו ויפתור לנו את חלומותינו, איש כחלומו פתר, ויהי כאשר פתר לנו, כן היה אותי השיב על קני, ואותו תלה, וישלח פרעה ויקרא את יוסף, ויריצו מן הבור, ויגלח ויחלף שמלותיו, ויבוא אל פרעה. What a story. Joseph's back in the game. We've read now Parshat Miketz. Even though we do not technically have an in-the-room minyan, it is possible for us to offer El Malei Rachamim for those who have a yard site being marked this week. We can do so simply by reciting the memorial prayer for the deceased. Is there anyone in the room who has a Malei this week to be marked?
Okay, is there anyone on Zoom who has an Amale to be marked this week? If not, then what we'll do is I'll invite Marshall to come back and we will continue now and we'll continue with the whispered private Amidah for Mincha.
The Amidah will begin on page 223 in the Lev Shalem, 234 in the Shabbat Sim Shalom, and 574 in the Sim Shalom for Shabbat and weekdays. If you're still praying your Amidah, you can continue. We will continue with Tzidkatacha on page 230 in the Lev Shalem.
Tzidkatacha tzedek leolam, v'toratecha emet, v'tzidkatacha Elohim, ad marom asher asita gedolot, Elohim michamocha, tzidkatacha kahareel, mishpatecha tahom rabbah, Adam uvhema, toshia Adonai.
We continue with Aleinu on page 231.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol. 3 lines from the bottom at 231. Kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai yamloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz v'yamuhu Adonai echad u'shmo echad.
We'll do Mourner's Kaddish on page 232 in Lev Shalem, 249 in Shabbat Sim Shalom, and 600 in weekday Sim Shalom.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala uv'izman kari v'yamru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yamru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh Shalom Bimroma Buya Aseh Shalom Aleinu Ya'kol Yisrael Bimru. Amen.
Yasher Koach to Marshall for leading Mincha for the first time since 19 something. It just he said it's been a while, so I'm just saying 19 something. Yeah. Yasher Koach. And thank you to everybody who's here, both virtually and presently in the room. We're going to nourish ourselves a little bit first with some food. Actually, there's some yummy extras. Sorry that we can't share with absolutely everybody, including those who might be with us from the East Coast. Can't mail them to you, but we hope you grab something to nourish yourself with. And after we eat for a little bit, we'll join together to do some learning. We will do that in about somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes from now. We'll learn from our rabbinic intern, Cheva. So we'll see you all back on screen in a few moments.
It was good then, it might as well be good, it's likely gonna be good repeated today, so. Okay. You can name once again. What is it? Nice to see you. Here, come have something to eat.
Literally a single thread. Okay, Ella, she's on Zoom. Ella, come back. You want just one strap? Oh, the other one's in your mouth. Got it. Is that good? You all set up? Okay. Okay, so let's see that. How are you?
These are the new things that take place with modern technology. People don't know services and services delivery.
I have one of my Italians has a glitter on it, and I put my mask in the bag, my atomic bag, and now I have a glittery nose. It's very subtle.
Delicious whitefish spread. You ever had whitefish? You are in for a treat. It is very, very, very good. You are in for a treat.
I feel like the opera diva. He said, well, I think we'll just skip this aria for today.
Yeah.
We'll just practice some crochet.
Yeah.
Some crochet. Sotto voce. Sotto voce. I'm getting my Latin and my Italian mixed up.
Fair enough.
I better go back and review my Latin.
That's fair enough.
You will know.
Te amo.
You can put it on the page.
This is the one place you can find where they were. We can take a look.
Like
Can I come with you? Yeah, let's go see if we can find
I napped also.
Tell Ella that Ella, I have to go on a little adventure to look for some books. Are you cool hanging out and eating some cream cheese bagel? Yeah?
No, I didn't finish.
I did. Yeah.
Let me put my keys in my pocket.
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it.
Ella, are you cool sitting here with your bagel? I'm just gonna go look for some books. I'll be right back, right?
Yeah, I actually find some
Well, let's go
I
see.
learned a lot. A lot of stuff I didn't know. I had no idea.
Diary of an Unspoken Kid.
It's really helpful. I think he really.
You already finished it?
Yeah, before
I know my food.
services started, I was reading.
Are you such a fast
I think I really didn't know.
It takes me less than
Roughly the
half an
poor
hour
our population and the
of
ready population
repeating
that can't
the
fit into
entire
society.
book. And also, one time I read an entire page of the movie in less than 18 seconds.
Less than 18 seconds?
An entire page.
I think I could read maybe a sentence in 18 seconds.
Less than 18 seconds.
That's so fast.
Yeah, I was thinking of the article. I was gonna post it, but
I feel like it
I
would take
figured
me
no one
weeks
would
to
read it on my Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
Wow, it's such a fast reader.
How's the whitefish?
What's the book about?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Seriously.
My mother of blessed memory used to be able to take a whitefish, fillet it, and hold up the bone behind the whole bone, the whole body with the bone. She was expert. This is now just the salad. They do a very good job with it. And I would highly recommend eating that and not eating the chili, not eating the chili.
We're like the next stop from probably something else.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's beans, potatoes, and they have some, they have kishka, bacon, not real kishka, but something else that's similar to it.
What's the original book called again? Diary of
Kishka it's not
Wimpy
real
Kid.
kishka.
Oh, right.
Real
Did they make a
kishka
movie out of that?
is your,
yeah.
I never saw it, but I feel like I saw pictures. They made a bunch of movies. Are there a bunch of books?
part of the insides.
Did they ever make a
of
movie out of
cow.
Diary of an Awesome Family Kid?
Yeah, and it's, when it's real kishka, it can be quite good. But this is just, it's not synthetic, it's not meat, it's all. Yeah. It can be good, but I highly recommend go with whitefish. Well, this ravioli is not bad either. Yeah, I'm afraid the World Cup is winning in the battle for my mind of what I'm going to do tomorrow morning.
What's the other option?
Coming to Minha at 8.
Record the game.
Well, that's an option. I'm not gonna watch it myself. I'm gonna find someplace to go watch it, but it has to be outdoors. COVID conscious.
If you have to find a place to watch it outdoors, good luck. It's going to be challenging at 7 a.m. and not so many places outdoors you can do it. This is the World Cup. I understand. The question is, you'll find bars, particularly there's a French bistro on, well, are you rooting for France or for Argentina? Argentina. Oh, and forget, strike that idea. You don't want to sit in the front. Everyone's going to be rooting for France.
I know how to act among opposing points of view. I don't have to cheer when Messi wins the game. I want to see it. I don't follow soccer really, but I've had good experiences when I've gone to World Cup. Usually on Pico, this right now Pico is usually an English bar that always plays all the way. I was hoping to see it at one Culver where I used an office for the local weekend. They have 100-foot by 30-foot screen. That's what I was really.
Where's this going to be? Where's the place on Pico?
I don't know. I'm gonna find. I'll let you know when I find it.
Tomorrow. I think it's a bar right next to just east of Robertson.
Oh yeah,
on Pico on the north side of the
I
city.
lived there. But yeah, I know exactly what I
There used to be a bar, they used to call it the joint.
Right,
That was
now-
called
Still a bar
Found
now?
something or some Founders.
Yeah.
But they don't have it outdoor really.
No, that's inside. Challenging, but I understand there's nothing like watching it live, and because you're sharing it with everyone across the world, it's the most watched event worldwide. People really care about it. This is it. It determines Messi's, legacy. This is his last shot.
World Cup.
Well, you're definitely making the argument for my dark side.
No,
So it starts at 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Yeah.
This is one, because otherwise Minyan is at 8, and by the time you could be in for the very end, but you're missing half of it.
Yeah.
So who's on which?
Well, I was trying to say I watched half of it, but then I gotta go get to the Minion show.
What
I
I'm
don't
gonna
like
do,
being rushed on the second.
here's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna take my, I
I got
usually
so
keep my
into
bill in
it.
here in the locker.
I love it.
I think I'm just like. We're gonna get down at home tomorrow.
I don't know. I have some questions as to like questions I had to deal with. Oh yeah, I know. There's definitely.
You're welcome to come join us.
When it was in China now.
I normally would, but
Yeah. No, it's messed up.
still.
It's so
If you're
bizarre.
COVID conscious, and you don't wanna do it.
There are systems that I
about you, just,
that I engage in that I know that they're
I
not.
really want to see what the crowd.
And there are other systems I extract myself from. So that is this is like it's not a perfect record for sure.
Wherewithal is,
But like I grew up on soccer.
bring my TVs from inside my house into my backyard, so that both of you can be at Minha tomorrow. Watch it afterwards.
If you do that, I would come to Minion tomorrow, which I never do. Because I
I'm actually a little nervous now that I remember.
Well, I don't have too many,
this.
I don't have too many good habits, that's one of them.
Who else isn't coming tomorrow morning? Mike Harris, he's a big soccer fan. I don't think Mike Harris is gonna, he practically lives here.
Yes, not practically. He does.
Yeah. Are you coming tomorrow morning?
But,
That's 3 of
he's
us.
gonna look in that closet
That's
while
in-
we're coming
comes
over
up
with them to
tomorrow.
see which ones they are, and then let's start in like 5 minutes.
It does raise an issue.
Should be perfect. If
I
not,
wanna make sure,
How you doing?
Sense that we should have. I could try and record it.
oh, geez,
I don't wanna add pressure either way, I'm just.
it wasn't. That was just normal ravioli. Yeah.
But tomorrow is going to
Told
be
him?
more challenging because this is War Watch and Super Bowl.
No, I know. I think I'm gonna send a text to fellow Beth Almers and say I need.
A suggestion?
Yeah.
Wait till after Shabbat.
I was gonna do it on WhatsApp, I was gonna do it to some people that
Awesome.
we don't very.
Whatever you choose to do, you may do. I'm just making the suggestion.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Just like you were making the suggestions.
Yeah,
No pressure.
We'll see.
Wonderful state.
Yeah, it's not super clear.
I am taking my first steak dish.
They're right outside the door here. No, there's a bookshelf right at the door.
One problem I've had that was gonna ruin it, I had a meeting with my mentor, Rick Tuttle, instead of, he gave me the suggestion that I forgot the word about. I'm now, it is probably in the happiest state I've been in my life. No one's gonna bother me for 2 weeks. I'm taking a staycation, I'm technically off. So I'm gonna get my work organized, but that's my prerogative.
This is the time to do it.
Perfect time. We're gonna start in just a couple minutes.
I didn't text you, I didn't call you, I had a brief cold, so I didn't accompany you for a whole week. I'm glad you're here alive and well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big Ufruf lunch today. Liat and Jake. Liat is from a family that's been around for a long time. Rabbi Chorny will know the last names. Yeah.
They called left me. I would like to left me day one, but I didn't find it.
I'm gonna make a mistake for Heather.
extend myself Sunday.
When's her way come? She's checking on some books and then she'll be back and we'll get started. We checked boxes.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, she won't eat anything back, but she will eat, she can live, she can do that.
So now it's Sunday.
My wife had COVID again, which it is.
Yes.
And then they got positive,
I'm not happy camping about it. This is
A little
the
embarrassing,
third
I'll
shot.
have to worry about it.
And I know, I'm Singer Frank.
It's a little embarrassing, but
Worked
I'll have to worry
in,
about it.
he worked at, you know, in clergyman at one of the hospitals in Seoul.
That's what she said.
And he just got COVID
Okay.
2 weeks ago, 3 years. He's okay. You know, he recovered, but I saw him, 2 days ago. But still, I mean, the guy went through the worst of it, and then he did out of it. That's supposed to die in a war. We'll see.
Or the 24th.
If we're still in trouble, then I'm not gonna get it. Worse than worse than.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm gonna leave California until I start getting it. Yeah, I kind of kept it a small.
Oh, the one in,
Okay.
And that's what really reminds me of people dying left and right.
How are you? Good, how you doing? Good. Right, you can get started.
I'm taking some home to her.
Eso. ¿Cómo encontraste eso? Enorme. Sabe todo. Mil gracias. Ustedes lograron eso. Wow. Okay. Look at that. Yes, Juan, you get an answer. Yes, Juan, you get 15.
Yes, that's it.
Juan, Juan sabe todo. Yep. He really does. I can never lose him. Unless he wants 60. Perfect. Look at these beautiful Bibles. Hey.
Don't worry about wasting.
I'm so glad we waited a couple seconds.
Okay. So my name is Cheva Lehrman. I'm one of the rabbinic interns here at Betham, and let's do some learning together. So I know that one person has the source sheet, but we have pretty much all the text we need in the Tanakh. So the first text, I'm going to ask you to turn to Genesis 41, verse 37. And if I could have someone read from 37 to 43, and if for those who are comfortable using the microphone, we can pass that around. Thank you. It's on page 87. Breshit 41:37. It's at the very bottom of page 87. Thank you, Marshall. Yeah.
Okay. The plan pleased Pharaoh and all his courtiers. And Pharaoh said to his courtiers, "Could we find another like him, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, There is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my court, and by your command shall all my peoples be directed. Only with respect to the throne shall I be superior to you. Pharaoh further said to Joseph, see, I put you in charge of all the land of Egypt. And removing his signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand, and he had him dressed in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. He had him ride in the chariot of his second in command, and they cried before him, Abrech. Thus he placed him all over the land of Egypt.
Thank you. So we have this moment in Parshat Miketz where Joseph goes from, Joseph has his meteoric rise to a position of power. And this moment at which he is officially enshrined, so to speak, in his new position of authority is in verse 42. If you want to look at the Hebrew, it says, Vayasar paro et tabato me'al yado v'yiten ota al yad Yosef. And then it goes on to talk about how he dressed Joseph in the garb of royalty, of Pharaoh's household. This line, Vayasar paro et tabato, just to flag that for a moment, because we're going to come back to that, but in a different context. Yasar is a verb that means to turn aside or chasten or to take off. So he is taking off his taba'ah, his signet ring, and that is the moment at which Joseph comes to power. So my first question for you is, what words would you use to describe Joseph's new position and its implications? What adjectives would you use for the state or position that Joseph is in now? Chief of staff, almost, yeah. Vice president in charge of things, and okay, and other than yeah, sorry, prime prime minister, and what adjectives do you ascribe to this sort of position? Adjectives would you use for this sort of position? Powerful, abuse of power. What's the contrast with Joseph's position from the Parsha that we just concluded this morning, from Parshat Vayeshev? Powerless, in the pits, in prison. There's a certain security that Joseph has gained by getting this new position, right? He, as Pharaoh says, you are in charge of all of Egypt. No, there will be no difference between you and me, except that I have this throne. He arrived. Yes. Who? Okay. She said she wouldn't say security because he could be unceremoniously dethroned as well. So this is all good to keep in mind. And he almost was. Who is most affected by Joseph's new position? Who's most affected in this moment?
The wise men in the court around Pharaoh who now realize they're not going to be ascending to power as they want to be.
Yeah, so I'll repeat, and then we can start passing the mic to those who feel comfortable. But Alan said the wise men in the court of Pharaoh who will be affected by Joseph's presence. Who else is affected by Joseph's position now? Joseph. Yes, Joseph is very affected by his new position. Yeah, who's going to be affected? Not yet, but who will be affected by his position? Joseph's brothers and the Jews. Right. So there's going to be a strong impact down the road, but we're not there yet. But right now, this is an important change. So one of the central things that I see in this moment is this transition, right, from the powerlessness to the powerful, but also all of the implications that go with that, some of which are good and some of which are a little bit dangerous. There's another very comparable situation. We're actually not going to get quite to the same language yet. We're going to stop somewhere first, which is in the book of Esther. So if you can flip to page 1792 in the Tanakh. That is Esther 5, verse 2. That was 1792, Esther 5, verse 2. And if someone could read verses 2 to 5, please. Are you okay? That'll be good for the person on Zoom.
Okay. Right. Thus said the Lord of
Oh,
hosts.
no,
Oh.
Esther.
Oh, Esther, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
in the
all right.
wrong place. Okay.
1792.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
No, no.
Okay, 117.
Here you go. So
Okay.
starting at verse 2 here,
Okay.
and then ending at the end of verse 5 here.
Okay. Thank you. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won his favor. The king extended to Esther the golden scepter which he had in his hand, and Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. What troubles you, Queen Esther? The king asked her. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be granted you. If it please your majesty, Esther replied, let your majesty and Haman come today to the feast that I have prepared for him. The king commanded, tell Haman to hurry and do Esther's bidding. So the king and Haman came to the feast that Esther had prepared.
Thank you. So what is the gesture that brings Esther to power? Unintentional rhyming. But what is, yeah, I see demonstrations. Golden scepter, the sharvit, as it is in Hebrew. So, and he extends it towards her, and he touches the tip of the scepter as she kneels before him. Right. So we have a different gesture of power transfer here. Who is affected by Esther's authority at this point? Haman, Esther, the king. Yeah. Who's going to be affected by Esther's authority? Haman. Yeah. And the Jewish people. Anyone else? Mordecai. Anyone else? All the people who end up dying at the end of the story. So the entire kingdom of Shushan is going to be infected by Esther's power. We don't always like to read that part, but we're going to read it today. So Esther. So Esther's rise to power is going to be also very impactful, but of course she's not the only one who's rising to power in the story. Flip forward just another page, actually 2 pages, to chapter 7, verse 11, on page 1796. Wait, sorry, that doesn't make sense. There is no verse 11. Chapter 8, verse 1. I wrote it down wrong. Here we go. Okay, so chapter 8, verse 1. Yes, Alan? Just two verses.
Oh, okay. That very day, King Ahasuerus gave the property of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Mordecai presented himself to the king, for Esther had revealed how he was related to her. The king slipped off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's property.
Okay, thank you. And can you read the first 3 words in Hebrew of the second verse?
I have to see where the second verse begins here. Hang on. Vayasar hamelech et taba'ato.
Yes.
Same pasuk, same phrase.
Same phrase. Vayasar hamelech et tabato. So again, we have the sovereign giving his signet ring. Who's he giving it to? Mordecai. He's giving it to Mordecai, right? But then what's at the end of the second verse? What is the hierarchy of power that we see at the end of the second verse? Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's property.
So it's still King, Esther, Mordecai.
Yes, exactly. And so we have this moment at which Esther is in power, Mordecai is rising to power, but somewhat as Esther's directee. And yet it's unclear like who the people look to for power in this moment. And it continues to be unclear because Esther gives direction, but I want you to keep going further to chapter 9, next page, verses 3 and 4. And I want you to skim just to the end of verse 3, where it says, all the officials of the provinces showed deference to the Jews because the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them. For Mordecai was now powerful in the royal palace, and his fame was spreading through all the provinces. The man Mordecai was growing ever more powerful, or in Hebrew, gadol. So in this case, what sort of power does Mordecai seem to have? Popularity. Yes, we can read the next line. Yeah, so, and the next line is, so the Jews struck at their enemies with the sword, slaying and destroying. They wreaked their will upon their enemies. So what's happened between 7 and 9 is that Esther has, chapter 7 and 9, is that Esther has petitioned the king for the Jews to have the right to defend themselves. And the Jews do defend themselves in a very almost aggressive way, killing a lot of people. So this fear of Mordecai, what is that? Power, yeah, power of the sword. They're afraid he's going to kill them. Yeah, Marshall?
I don't know if it's particularly relevant, but there's another use of the word pachad in Genesis, the word pachad yitzchak. And I don't know exactly what pachad yitzchak means. Is it maybe, does it mean fear, or is it like the power of Yitzchak or the power of Mordecai? I don't know exactly what it means. I don't remember the context in Genesis.
That's a great question, the Pachad Yitzchak and what the context and meaning was. I actually don't know the answer either. I'm wondering if anyone else has an answer to Marshall's question. Yeah, so okay. Between Pachad and Yirah. Yirah usually does have a greater range towards the positive connotation. And Pachad is exactly what we think of in the English definition of fear, the negative, yeah. Any other thoughts on the comparison to Pachad Yitzchak? So these are all, so what is something that Purim has in common with the holiday that's much closer on the calendar, starting on Sunday, Hanukkah? Ella, do you have an answer? No? Okay. She's very excited about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is good. Yes, we are excited.
Military victories.
Military victories. Unexpected things happening. Can you take the microphone? She has a microphone for you.
I didn't know I was that eloquent. Okay.
You are. We want to hear what you say.
Talking about people who don't have any power, unexpectedly, without even knowing it, suddenly being granted power that they didn't have before. You're talking about unexpected circumstances, so to speak, and Hanukkah is about unexpected. It's unexpected miracles, so things nobody anticipated.
That's beautiful. Yes. Hand on Zoom, please.
My sound's been going in and out, but are we comparing Purim and Hanukkah?
Yes.
Because there are a whole bunch of things. Prolonged, how you do things is prolonged, because even if Purim's only one day, you have to prepare. You have to prepare the packages you're going to take to people. It takes more preparation. Late in Jewish history, events later in Jewish history, and then neither of them are a chag.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you. Mm. Her point with Purim and Yom Kippur being paired holidays, yeah.
That's a play of words because it's Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippurim, a holiday like Purim.
Mhm.
And that's a rabbinic
Yeah.
notrakun to be able to divide the word to be able to do it in that way. Okay, but the other point, on both days, we say al hanisim. We
Yes.
say about miracles. So in both instances, it's viewed as miraculous
Right.
about what had taken place. You can see the swift rise to power of both Joseph and Mordecai could be part and parcel of that miraculous development for the
Mhm.
Chag,
Yeah.
for the Chagim.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah. Yes. So the
But-
Shalosh Regalim have a connection to the agricultural component that neither Hanukkah nor Purim have.
Yes, but it's interesting that on Hanukkah, we say Hallel, but on Purim, we do not.
Mm.
So when it says it's a question of why, the rabbis like to say, well, because that was a miracle that happened in Israel, and this happened outside of Israel. Purim happened outside of Israel, so it can't be celebrated. I think there may be more to the story than that.
What would you say for yourselves of why one would say Hallel on Hanukkah but not on Purim? Dan? Can you say that into the mic? Sorry. Thanks.
I think because of the rededication of the temple,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that, and it's 8 nights, but I think in particular because the synagogue is important
Mm-hmm.
and is central. And the other thing, which to me is really interesting, is Shabbat Hanukkah, and I think it's going to happen this year. When it's Rosh Chodesh, there's 3
Yeah.
Torahs.
Yeah.
And I know a couple who currently live in Israel but used to live here, who that was their wedding and their ufruf. Wow. So that has stuck with me for years.
I think that perhaps this is what Alan was referring to. I think that the reason not to say Hallel on Purim is the ongoing discomfort of the rabbis with the absence of God in Megillat Esther. And the absence of God in that holiday and having to write God in, it's just very uncomfortable because the use of Psalm 118 broken up and some other Psalms in Hallel to thank God for the miracles. I mean, even the stretch to put together an Al Hanisim for Purim that includes God strikes me as really odd liturgically because where is God in the story? We have to put God in. So that for me is the most obvious reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting also in thinking about these 3 stories compared to each other is that there isn't a lot of God in the Joseph story either. Right? Like there isn't a sense that like God is shepherding Joseph up the chain of command. It's just a story. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the counterpoint is that what got Joseph to the place of being recognized is prophetic dreams. And what I'll add to your counterpoint to the point I was making is that when Joseph sees his brothers at the end of the whole story, he says, God brought me to this place. You did not send me. Yeah.
Joseph also gave God credit for the ability to interpret.
Yes, and Joseph gave God credit for the ability to interpret. So there are ways in which Joseph credits God, and we trust that Joseph's right, but we don't hear God speaking to Joseph like we see later God speaking to Moses, right? It's more implicit. It's like under the surface. And it's not that we have any discomfort with a relationship between God and Jews reaching positions of authority or security, right? We have it in Aleinu, we have it in Amidah, we have prayers about that. And I'm curious what your feeling is about those prayers, about praying those prayers.
Which prayers?
Yeah, so in uh, the Amidah we have Le Malshinim, right? And we say, let there be no hope for, it's translated in, it can be translated as the informers, but the Zedim, right? So like the betrayers, and may you like crush, rout, subdue, uproot the insolent people, right? It's a very strong prayer. In some prayer books, it's actually one of the most commonly changed parts of the Amidah, right? There's the Reform prayer book draws on the Beria story from Brachot 10a, where she says to Rabbi Meir, don't condemn sinners to die, condemn the sin. And so they changed that language of the prayer to be more about let sin be crushed from the earth rather than sinners.
There's another change in the Talmud. It's referred to as the Minim prayer.
Yeah.
And later it was changed, and there's the Minim were going to be the different sects. There's some who believe that this was actually the 19th prayer that was added in to the Amidah to represent at the time of Jews who were turning to Christianity. And that's why they were viewed as the heretics taking place here.
Mhm.
But yet there was another response to that it was already there as part of it. And the two that were added in were the one about Jerusalem, Bonei Yerushalayim, and Etzemach David.
Mhm.
And those two were found together in the Cairo Geniza as being one, dating to the year about 1000. But there was difference what was going on in Jerusalem, what was going on in Babylonia. But the notion was that it's a convoluted history, and there are lots of different theories about what's going on with respect to what this means. But there's no question that it involves a real sense of people on the outside. You have to be beware of people that are going to be on the outside or maybe betraying you.
Right.
And that can be a real issue when you talk about safety and security and what have you.
Right, right. So just being sensitive to the time.
Oh, Sheva,
yes.
though, I've had my hand up
Oh,
for a while, which is why I
sorry.
got the exclamation point, because I thought someone said not agricultural, and I want to counter that strongly.
Okay.
Hanukkah is agricultural because one, it's a deferred Sukkot. So if it's a deferred Sukkot, it's the harvest of all 7 species. And more importantly, at Sukkot is when the olive harvest is just starting. The olive harvest ends at Hanukkah, and without olives for the oil, there couldn't have been a rededication. So it's absolutely agricultural.
Thank you. And I actually am going to, I'm going to take the blame for misquoting Sandra in that she was saying the Shalosh Regalim are agricultural pilgrimage festivals, and not just that they're agricultural. So I think you're both right.
I didn't hear her. I only heard you.
Right, because I was repeating back.
Got it. And then maybe I misheard. Old person on Zoom.
No, I misquoted. You're good. So I think that when we see these prayers and when we see this text, there's a loop here of the fact that fear and insecurity is real, and the security that comes with power is also real and valid. And it's okay to have those reflected in our stories, or to need an outlet for those feelings in our prayers, right? Or to reach to God for that moment. But one of the other parts of this is that there are challenges in having these stories. There's challenges in having these examples in our text. And so when I was wrestling with this, I came upon this text by Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler in Michtav Me'Eliyahu, and this is what he said that to me resonated with these stories and prayers. I'm required to support the entire world. As the verse says in Proverbs 10:25, the righteous are the foundation of the world. I'm responsible for everything that happens in the world because I was created to fix the world. Even if others neglect their duty, as each person is required to fix the world, I must act as if there's nobody else beside me to do it. So in holding all of that, he looks at God's example of holding the full world and says, I will lean into this. I will lean into holding the world and holding my responsibility to it, regardless of what others are doing around me. And that is the path that I choose to follow. And that reminded me of the line from Psalms, Lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael, right? That like we trust in God, that God will not rest, God will not let up in protecting us, as well as we have responsibility to protect us and protect all those around us. So thank you very much. Shabbat shalom.
Your last comment was reminiscent of what Rabbi Gordon Bernard Cuden said today as a drash about Jewish, pride and what's taking place. And so much of it, the pride isn't so much what you say as what it is that you do. I can't quote exactly what he said, but it's your actions that count and what's going to take place. But you're just doing that for that individual taking action. That was beautiful.
Let's let Sheva go on. Thank you for that comment. We're gonna say Yisher Koach to Sheva and let her continue, and she's gonna wrap us up with and have somebody leave their cut on its own. Because we're tight on time and want to make sure that we get a chance to do Marid and Havdalah. And thankfully, we now have a minion in the room, so we can actually do Marid and Havdalah as we would want to do with a minion in the room. So Yisher Koach.
So let's see, I don't have the page.
Page numbers are here.
I was teaching on eating, so is there somebody who had bread, and we don't have Birkat Hamazon on the sheet? Oh, it's in the back of the book somewhere, I think. But yes, if anyone wants to grab a bencher and lead it.
And the first paragraph, we need bread.
I can do that.
Still have that microphone over there, Alan?
Yeah.
All right, so invitational on the first paragraph.
Okay.
47.
חבריי נברך. Oh. Shir malot b'shuva Adonai et shivat Zion hayinu kechomim az yirmalei tzchok binu ushonenu rina az yomu v'agoyim yigdil Adonai lasot imanu yigdil Adonai לעשות עמנו היינו שמחים שוב אדוני את שביתנו כאביקים בנגב הזורים בדמעה ברינה יקצרו היוך לכו בכו נושא משך הזרע בוא יבוא ברינה נושא אלומותיו חברי נברך
יהי שמרנה ורחמתה ועד עולם.
יהי שמרנה ורחמתה ועד עולם ברשות הרבנים וכל חברי נברך אלוהינו שלחנו משלו
ברכנו שלחנו משלו ובטובו חיינו.
ברוך אלוהינו שלחנו משלו ובטובו חיינו ברוך ברוך שמו ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם חזן את העולם כולו בטובו וכן בחסד ורחמים ונותן לחם לכל בשר כי לעולם חסדו ובטובו הגדול תמיד לא חסר לנו ולא יחסר לנו מזון לעולם ועד בעבור שמו הגדול כי הוא אלזן ומפרנס לכל ומיטיב לכל ומכין מזון לכל בריאותיו אשר ברא ברוך אתה אדוני חזן את הכל. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Hashalom.
Mariv will begin on page 264 in the Lev Shalem, 281 in Shabbat Sim Shalom, and 200 in Sim Shalom for weekday and festivals. What page did you say? Thank you. והוא רחום יכפר ולא ישחית והיא בעל שיבה פבל כחמת אדוני הושיע מלך יעננו ויום קוראנו. Please rise. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד. You may be seated. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת התורה מצחים משפטים ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. Page 265. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohechem emet v'nakazok hayam aleichem Elohim zeta. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה בני ישראל לכהנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך בעלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נוראתי לא תוסף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר היום לפני משה זה אלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו שלום אמנו מחנים פרסנו ספשם אחדנו ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום יתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן ברוך אדוני מצן שוכן שלם הללויה
כי המלכות שלך היא עולם להטימך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו.
Shansi Kaddish is on page 269.
יתקדע ויתקדש שמי רבה, בהלמד יברכו וימליך מלכותי בחייכנו ימכנו חיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתשמע וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, להילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
The whispered Amidah starts on page 270.
If you're still completing your Amidah, you may continue to do so. Chatzi Kaddish is on page 279.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בהמה דברך תבמליך מלכותי בחייכון ומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מרוך לעולם לעמי המעיין. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתשמע וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ויהי נועם ה' אלוהינו עלינו מעשה ידינו קודנו עלינו מעשה ידינו קודנו ושם וסתנו מעשה שלנו. יקראין היבנה עמו אנוכי וצרה חסה ואכבדי אורחם עם אסביה ורי בישועתי אורחם עם אסביהו ורי בישועתי. We turn back to page 216 in the Lev Shalem. ואתה קדוש יושב תהילת ישראל וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך לארץ כבודו. ותישאני רוח ושמע אחרי קורש גדול ברוך אדוני ממקומות. אדוני ימלך לעולם ועד. ויפתחו וכיודע שמך כי לא עזבת דרשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. קדיש שלם, page 280. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בהמה דברך תבמליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעמי המעיין. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתשמע וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צודון ובדון דכל ישראל קודם ובהון דבי שמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרואין שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרמיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדוני כל הדלת סבשי של הסתגור. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Mourner's Kaddish, page 282. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ברמיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. We're going to do kiddush. We'll use one of the paper cups. We're going to do kiddush. I'm still stuck in this morning. We're going to do havdalah. And if you would like to come in close, you can. But you can also stay where you are. All right. Havdalah is on page 283 in Lev Shalem.
$299 in Sim Shalom for Shabbat, and $700 in Sim Shalom for weekday festivals.
Yanai, thank you. Nai, 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 yanai, nai, 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 yai, nai, 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 yai, nai, nai, yana, nai, nai, yana, nai, yai, nai, nai, yana, nai, 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 yai, nai, yana, nai, 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 hine el Yeshuati. Eftach velo efchad, ki ozi vezimrat ya Adonai vayehi li lishu. Ushavtem mayim besason mimanei Yeshua Adonai Yeshua Alamcha virchatecha sela Adonai tzevaot Imanu Miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov Selah Adonai Tzevaot Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Ya'anenu V'yom Koreinu LaYehudim Hayta ora vesimcha vesason vikar kenti elanu kos Yeshuotesa uveshem Adonai ekra yainanai yananai nai yainanai yananai nai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei vesamim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael le'amim ben yom hashvihi le'sheshet yamei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Chatoteinu imcho Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kacho chavim alayla Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kacho chavim alayla Shavua tov, Shavua tov Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov. Hanavi Eliyahu Atishbi Eliyahu Eliyahu Agiladi Bimhera Veyamenu Yavo Elenu Imashiach ben David Imashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, everyone. I'm going to run to a 20s and 30s program that we have on the field, which is why I'm going to take all this stuff. But hope you will join us for Hanukkah stuff throughout the week. And yeah, happy Hanukkah. Chagarim Sameach.
Happy Hanukkah, Mickey.
Sorry?
Nice to meet you. Okay.
Very much here. Shavua Tov. Yeah.
We're at the Hanukkah.
That's right.